Let me get your presentation. Hi, Elizabeth.
Good morning. Hello.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, good. Why isn't this showing up?
I'm going to pull it out to get back in.
Yeah, let's do that.
Stick it in another one.
No, I got it this time. And I'll just leave it on there. I'm going to mute you, Elizabeth.
Well, okay.
If you have any questions, just raise your hand, and Leanne's in the room. She'll let us know and unmute you. Okay.
Very good.
All right. Christina Chamberlain. Hi, Christina.
Hello.
Christina?
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Good to have you with us.
I was figuring.
I know you were at the conference here in Chicago a couple weeks back too.
I certainly enjoyed Chicago.
Yeah, it was an interesting weekend.
Well, I went to the Museum of Industry and Science later on.
Oh yeah, I love the space part of it too. They have the Apollo capsule and stuff there. It's really cool. A lot of cool stuff.
I went for the dollhouse, Colleen Moore's dollhouse.
Oh, that is awesome.
I had a whole book with it. Loved it.
You could spend, with the headphones on, you could spend hours there just watching, looking at the dollhouse. It's amazing.
Oh, I didn't do the headphones. I should have done that. Luckily, I had read the book, so I knew a ton of it.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to mute you because Bob's ready to start, okay? If you have any questions, put up your hand and Leanne will catch it, okay?
Great, thanks.
Sure. Let's see, starting the broadcast. Leanne, you can see the screen? You can see my screen?
Mine just says combined IMHA and AVH.
How come this is not showing up?
I'm waiting for your screen.
Oh, you're waiting for my screen. Okay, Janice. What do I need to do? Oh, yeah, let me change to presenter to you, and then you send it back to me, and then I can show my screen, because that doesn't allow me to show my screen. What?
It says waiting to view Jeff's screen.
Waiting to see what?
Viewing Jeff's screen.
Oh, it's got to be changed to me. Let me change it to me.
You want me to change it to you?
Yeah, change it to me. Show my screen. I'll get this out of your way. And if you want to see who's here, you just see this.
Oh, okay.
If you want to see who's here, you can just click this, and then you see who has questions. These are the attendees. This is the staff. So, yeah. So I don't know. This was probably a vet, and Elizabeth from our group. Cool. This away. So you may see my screen now, right? Leanne, you see my screen?
Yeah, you're
good. Good.
Is there any way we could move that over a little bit to the? Should we?
Adrian. Move it.
Who's tall enough? Or else we have a stick.
Taller than I am.
Try, but I just do right under. Yeah.
All right. What on, man?
Good. Is that oblique action in there?
Okay. Hey, cool. That's as good as it'll go. Some of it is kind of chopped off by the computer.
It's a screen. It's not.
There we go. That's better.
It's not because it's got it on the. It's not because that projector's on the wall.
Hey, Tim, how do I make it so it just shows what the people are seeing and not that if this has like the next one, and that always kind of distracts me. I think there's a way to do just this one.
I think we have to do the view. We have to change the view. was just a few. This is the latest PowerPoint, so it's really nice. I like the view where you know what's coming next in case you. But yeah, it's everyone's.
Let's see, and the last thing is, how do I get this little guy out of here?
Oh, just click on, see on the little thing on the top? This little thing, just click on it.
Oh, okay.
Drag it to the
Oh, gotcha.
extreme side
Okay.
of the screen.
Gotcha.
Just click on it and drag it. Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, that's just so you can see it. You want to see it
okay.
like that.
How's that? Okay, cool. Okay, and did we hit the start button so they can hear us?
Leanne, you can hear us?
Did we hit
I
the
did
start?
before, I can check again. It's
Okay.
very
Why
hard
don't you
to
check?
hear you guys talking and.
Oh, okay. So, okay,
And we're
good.
broadcasting.
Okay, well, thank you, and welcome everybody to the last November Illinois Homeopathic Medical Association meeting of the year, and then we reconvene the third Saturday of March. So thanks. I'm Bob Signori, for those of you that can't see me on the webinar. And also, so I'm going to present a few cases, then after that we'll have a quickie break, and then after that, hopefully we'll be having Dr. Elisa Katz, who's a veterinarian who also trained with the Pitcairn School of Veterinary Homeopathy, so she should be enlightening us on their veterinary approach to homeopathy. And Dr. Elisa Katz, by the way, for those of us here in Chicago, this is a very valuable resource. She's in practice in Downers Grove on 75th Street, in case anybody needs a good veterinary homeopath and holistic vet. So first case, I'd like to thank a naturopathic physician, Dr. Barb Griffin, in my area that sent me this case. And let's see if I can- okay, so most of my cases, for those of you that know me, I like to take a lot of before and after clinical pictures. Unfortunately, this one has no pictures whatsoever, so that's actually pretty rare for my dermatology presentations, but there's a good reason for it. She has a 21-year-old woman who has widespread itching for 3 years, but she has no primary skin lesions and no secondary skin lesions, so there's nothing to photograph. There's no excoriations, there's no papules, there's no nothing. It's just that she's really, really itchy, and nobody has been able to figure out why. So just an aside, when you're studying pediatrics, what do they call it? When the little kid has a fever and none of the people can find out what's causing it. A fever, FUO, fever of unknown origin, of course. So what do you think they call it in dermatology when you're itching and nobody knows what's causing it? IO, yeah, itching of unknown, no, a PO, pruritus of unknown origin. Yes, very good. And you know, if it only lasts for a short while and it goes away, then it's really not a big deal. But this has been ruining this person's life. She's 21 years old. She's an extremely gifted athlete. She's a collegiate athlete. I think it's like an NCAA type of school. And she's a track and field kind of person. She's very gifted. But you can imagine how terrible it would be working out really hard like that and itching all the time. So she's had it for 3 years. She describes it as a very tingling itch. And it's worse when she gets hot, as you might imagine, because most itching gets worse when you get hot. That's not really unusual. So she gets hot and sweaty a lot because that's what she does for a living as a college athlete. And hot saunas make it worse, and also at nighttime. But of course, that's pretty common. Almost every itching patient I know usually gets worse at nighttime in terms of pruritus. So that doesn't really help us specifically from a homeopathic standpoint. She's also seen one very good dermatologist in the Chicago area. That person did a skin biopsy, which was non-contributory, didn't really show much, unfortunately. She was seen by her pediatrician. She was seen by her university clinic physician, and everybody's kind of striking out. And the only one that's really helped her was Dr. Barb Griffin, the naturopathic physician on the case, suggested that she stop eating chicken, and her itching became 50% less. So instead of a maddening 10 out of 10 intensity of itching, now she has a really annoying, obnoxious +5 out of 10 itching. So it's somewhat better. So we're thankful for that, but it's still ruining her life. And so of course, as you would imagine, she's seen a lot of different medical specialists. They've done a whole bunch of blood tests. So you know, sometimes when people have like iron deficiency anemia, sometimes they itch a lot. So that's always kind of a no-brainer. You want to get a CBC. So if they're, you know, if they're anemic and they're low in something, you want to normalize that, and sometimes they get better. Unfortunately, you know, blood tests are all normal. Thyroid, because hypothyroid people can itch, of course. Unfortunately for her, all her thyroid tests were normal. What other types of kind of important internal medicine kind of problems, systemic problems, can make it itch like crazy that you don't want to miss? That you could easily find on like a CBC or a chem profile, like a, you know, panel.
Jaundice, kidney failure.
Sure, kidney failure, jaundice. So that's very good. So you know, you get bilirubin levels and things like that, and get a BO and creat looking for kidneys, and so everything was like pretty much okay. The skin biopsy didn't really show much. The dermatologist did patch testing, which is like a really great thing to do, because with people that are itching, sometimes you could actually have a subclinical contact dermatitis. You could be allergic to the chemicals in your shampoo. You could be allergic to your Axe body wash. You could be allergic to all kinds of stuff, you know, stuff that's in your clothing. So the only thing that was positive for her patch test was it was positive to gold. It was determined that it was clinically not significant because she didn't have any gold crowns. She didn't wear gold jewelry. But it did show that she was allergic to gold. So of course it'd be important to avoid it, but she already does that. She doesn't really use gold for anything. Is by any chance, you know, nowadays when you take a really good mineral and vitamin supplement, they have all kinds of trace minerals in it that they never used to, you know, give before, like, you know, cobalt and zinc and all kinds of stuff like that. Does anybody know, do they actually do the really trace minerals like gold and silver and stuff like that? Does anybody know? That's the one.
I see them using some trace minerals in water to make great salt lake, and it has like 50 different minerals. So yeah, it has.
So you think it would have
like,
gold in
basically,
it?
it's like seawater, which has basically all the trace minerals.
So you
But
think
the problem is it sometimes can be contaminated with arsenic, cadmium, maybe lead, maybe mercury. So you really have to watch your source and be careful because we can have heavy metal contaminants too. So
What is this?
I use, because we do RO water. It's actually Amanda Dr. Kramer. It's called Concentrates. They're made from the Great Salt Lake salt deposits. They take out the sodium chloride, and it's all other trace minerals, basically like ocean water. But apparently there are issues with arsenic, cadmium, things like that. So it makes the water taste delicious. It makes the RO water taste delicious.
I mean, you can have gold leaf pastries.
Oh,
Amazing.
gold leaf and pastries.
Oh, yeah. I used to, and like chocolates, I used to make chocolates with gold leaf on it.
So would you see it? I mean, would the person know that there's gold in their expensive
I
chocolate?
mean, it's cool. It's,
So you would see
I
it,
mean, you
like
can-
on the
yeah,
outside.
In India, they do it where they put silver on the certain burfies and stuff.
Yeah. So I mean,
It's
it's,
the same thing.
you know, like 5 stars with it.
Ah.
I mean, it's not a lot, but you're eating it. You are eating it.
So that's a really good point. So Leanne said that if she really likes artisan type of chocolates, that sometimes they're actually made with gold leaves, like made into them and stuff, or maybe certain types of sea salts might have like trace amounts of that. So that's a great idea. So I'm gonna have to go back and tell her about that. I don't really go to bars anymore, but in the old days they used to have those Rumple Mints and the different shots, you know, and they had like, what did they have in there? Was it gold or something? There used to be shots that the college students would always like drink, and was it Goldschlager? Okay, so I got to make sure she's not drinking Goldschlager. Awesome. Okay, well, these are great things for me to come back and to tell her to stop or to avoid those kind of things. Awesome, thank you. Okay, so from a conventional standpoint, she's been treated with topical steroids and antihistamines and antibiotics, and nothing's really helped her, unfortunately, except for getting off of chicken, which has been somewhat helpful. She does not have any jaundice, so she's not turning yellow. Her eyes aren't turning yellow, so that's good. But those are things you look at. So, so one of the the most common things we do in dermatology for people like this would be get a wooden tongue depressor and lift up the back of their shirt. With their permission, you just kind of stroke their back. You make like a tic-tac-toe sign, like you're writing a tic-tac-toe sign, but you're using a tongue depressor, and that will elicit, if you wait for about 10 or 15 minutes, you'll see if they have something called dermatographism. Dermato means skin, graphism means to write. So on it, so actually, if you really have a certain type of symptomatic urticaria, which is a physical type of hives, there are some people where after they scratch or you stroke their skin, they itch like crazy. So she could have had that. So I did that. Unfortunately, it was negative, but that would have been something that responds to treatment. Yes, Francine.
Do they check things so like the blood work is normal, but like eosinophils? To see if there was any.
All I know is I was told that the CBC was totally normal, so I didn't see it myself, but that's a good point. Yeah. So Francine said, what about looking for eosinophils? Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, of course, with certain conditions, of course, allergies, parasites, stuff like that. Yeah, great thought. Just as an aside, from a holistic standpoint, she did have just a tiny bit of comedonal and papular facial acne, but it wasn't really very bad. It was so mild I didn't even take a picture of it. She complained of bad chapped lips, bad headaches during the entire day. They're especially worse in the morning. And then the headaches and the irritable bowel syndrome, I think, started around the same time in the last 3 years or so when this all started. So she's been seen by 2 gastroenterologists who scoped her. Upper and lower endoscopies were totally normal. There was no cancer, there was no bowel problems, no inflammatory bowel disease. So they did not think she had Crohn's or ulcerative colitis, because many medical things like that can make you itch. But so is kind of a kind of diagnosis of exclusion. They just thought she had an irritable bowel syndrome. They gave her typical things for that, and of history, she said that they didn't help at all. She's had a total of 3 rectal exams, which are totally normal. So she's a very nice person, a college student. She describes herself as a perfectionist. She's a very good listener. She dislikes fish. She dislikes constellation. She absolutely really hates being caught in conflict. She said, I'm the middle child. I'm the peacemaker. I like everything to be happy, and I don't like conflict. Was there any grief in your life? And she said that yes, 1 year ago, her mother suddenly asked her husband, which is her father, for a divorce. So they had a really quick and unexpected divorce. And then the mother totally left the picture. In fact, she's living in a different continent right now, and she's engaged to be married to another guy. But this happened 1 year ago before I saw her, and all the itching, irritable bowel disease, stomach pain, the diarrhea, the headaches, all that stuff started about 3 years ago. So do you think it's important to note the silent grief, the recent grief? Do you think it could have anything to do with an ED?
And the rash started 3 years ago?
There is no rash, but the itching supposedly started 3 years ago when the headache and everything else. Yeah, and so I said, was there any grief like back 3 years ago? And she said no. So anyway, it's just something to kind of stick in the back of your mind when you're going through this case. So it was kind of a long case, but so these were some of the rubrics that I stuck in here. Kind of unusual things would be her nose tended to be on the cold side. So she didn't really look like a carbo veg. She didn't want to be fanned and things like that. But let's see, where's coldness? So carbo veg is something to think of. Ignatia, China, arsenicum, Nux vomica, let's see, sepia, pulsatilla, and natrum sulfur. So that's just one thing. She was a very meticulous, conscientious about trifles person. We talked about the silent grief. I was thinking calcarb because she really hates seeing scary movies. I mean, it really bothers her more than the average person. So you get the rubric, horrible things, sad stories affect her profoundly. So that would be something to think of. Fear of insects could be calcarb. She's chilly. So there's a whole slew of remedies you think of.
Sweaty.
No. And she certainly doesn't sweat, I don't think, at nighttime from what I recall. But she did have cold hands and feet, and but no, she was and now of course there are all kinds of CalCAR patients. They're not all obese and sweaty at night and stuff like that. But she was actually, she had more of a sepia body habitus, kind of not curvaceous, very like slender, like you would, like a champion runner would be, basically. But I mean, I had one young man who was a very slender person also, who was a very successfully treated CalCAR. So I mean, we can't rule that out.
What about the skin?
Oh, that's a good point.
Jeff, probably. Oh, that's right.
I was just trying to figure out.
I'm Oakland, Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff and Tim.
Did you meet him? Thanks.
Yeah.
That's a really good point, Dr. Shepard. See, so Dr. Shepard's point was there's a good rubric that I could probably use, which would be helpful, called itching without eruption. So let's see. Should we look that up? So can I hit escape, or should I just
hit escape?
And then, oops.
Just wait, just give it a second. And
It's also interesting how you present that first, whereas most doctors present number 4 and number 5 first.
What's that?
Most general practitioners would say this is a case of irritable bowel.
Oh, right. Well, as a dermatologist, I mean, she didn't come in to see me for that. But it's all one person, so you gotta take everything into consideration. So let's see. So would that be under generals? I'm a radar guy, so let's see.
No, it's under skin.
Under skin. So which of these is for skin? Okay. This is so different than radar. Okay, so then let's see. So how do we?
Itch.
So do we type in I? Let's see. ITCH. Itching.
And then click on that,
Do I
just click on
Double
that.
click.
on here? Okay.
And then eruptions.
ER.
ER. Eruptions without eruption. Okay.
And then click back on without. Click back on without. At the top. Yeah.
Okay.
So that then you have
So-
the other on the-
So the biggies could be, well, they could be any of these actually, but the biggies would be arsenicum, aluminum. What is fluoricum, phosphoricum? Is that? I've never used that. Fluor?
Piedra,
What's that?
rock rose.
Rock rose. Okay. Mesotherium. Let's see. So agaricus, aluminum silicate, calc-fluor, calc-sil, cannabis, carcinosin.
Would you
Diaspora.
want something like, that?
Thanks, Dr. Shepard.
chicken
Very good term.
aggravates?
Oh, chicken aggravates. Is that it?
Because-
Is that in my?
Well, because she said that
think it
50%
was.
of them stopped eating chicken.
Click back on your
So if she started eating chicken again, that would be an
Yeah,
aggravation, right?
Right there.
Oh, not there. Those are the right.
This guy?
Those are the
Oh, this one.
Yeah, click that.
Okay, and let's see. How do I get back into the How do I get back in slideshow? Do I hit this thing?
Yes.
Slideshow.
Lower button, lower right button. Lower right button.
This thing.
See this button down here.
Oh yeah. Okay, that's
Yeah. And then escape to get out.
And let's see. And then what do I hit for getting it on?
Backwards, just go back. Back and
No, but I mean, now it has like 2 slides on here on my presentation. What was the one that you hit change presentation to get it out of that 2 thing? What was that?
Hit slideshow. Click slideshow.
Where is it? I don't know
Let's click on it. Let's take a second.
came in here.
Okay, so let's see. So your point is well taken. Yeah, chicken aggravates. Unfortunately, there's only 2 things, and I forget which they were. It was like way out in the right field. So that didn't really help us that much. But so any thoughts while you're thinking? Let's see.
How is she with the sun?
She was okay with the sun. Like with the nature mirror and some other ones, you would worry about photophobia. She didn't really have much of that at all. unless, did I put that in here? She desired open air, but aggravate. So, I mean, I was actually thinking pulsatilla.
She doesn't like consolation.
Yeah, she doesn't like constellation. So, I mean, it could be nature mirror. Pulsatilla usually does. Nature mirrors are supposed to get better with fasting, actually, but this is fasting aggravates. But it says, does it say anything about nature mirror here? No, but it doesn't mean she couldn't. Let's see.
What about the word tingling? See, you used the word prickling.
Yeah, so what do you guys think? I really looked all over radar 10. I couldn't find tingling. So what do you think you would use? Because I looked up tingling, because I mean, you want to do it in the person's own words, and I couldn't find it. So what would you guys use?
So you have to differentiate. Is it falling asleep? Or
No.
is it formication, which is itch?
Oh.
Tingling of formication.
So formication meaning like ants are running on you?
The bugs and ants.
So it didn't really feel like that. It was just like a really, really tingling itch.
Or tingling like aphis, it's more like burning. So you have to listen more closely, asking for different language. So prickling isn't necessarily tingling.
So it wasn't any of the things that you mentioned. So where would I go from there?
Let's look for another word.
Her word was tingling, and that was about all she had. What do you think, Tim? If she was like, no, it's tingling. You know, is it prickling? No. Is it like?
I mean, sometimes the sensation is a key to the case, but oftentimes, I mean, I would look at maybe tingling, prickling, formication, kind of put them all together. That's how I would approach it.
Yeah, but words change in meaning over time, so what did those words mean in this time?
Right. That's one of the difficulties, right? 1800s, it might have, you know, felt different. Yeah, or people describe it differently.
It's not that it's keep the case, but it's just for learning. Be careful.
Yeah, that's one of the difficult things about homeopathy. So if this is your case, anything else you'd like to know? I don't know if you have the answer, but you could ask me. Yeah, Francine?
So the headaches started at the same time that the,
From what I remember, the headaches, it's like a never been well since 3 years ago. But the trouble was, she's not really telling me, yeah, this is what happened to me 3 years ago. I lost my job, my grandmother died, nothing like that. The only thing that you could hang her head on from a grief standpoint is the sudden loss of her mother, who kind of fell off the picture ever since she got divorced. But so really, but yes, the headaches were bad for 3 years, irritable bowel syndrome. By the way, the stomach pain, the only thing that made it better was she's like wolfing down charcoal caps. She has to take 6 charcoal caps every day just to help the stomach pain, which of course helps the stomach pain. But the trouble is, doesn't that absorb all the good nutrients out of your food? I mean, so, you know, all the vitamins and minerals, so she could get actually malabsorption. So anyway, yeah. So what do you think? If this is your patient, what do we do?
What about teeth? What about her teeth?
Yeah, she had very few cavities from what I remember. I think she may have had one sty in her life, but I don't think it was like a noteworthy thing. And as far as cavities, she took good care of her teeth, and I think she only had maybe 1 or 2 or 3 cavities, so nothing more than the average person, maybe less actually. So that's a good thought.
Could be like changes in environment as far as exposures, even simple as the
Exposures and
dryer
environment, sure.
Because if it's like constantly something new and different, and
Sure.
then, you know, that's what the towels are, and that's what she always dries off with, and then, you know.
Sure, so that's a good dermatological thing. You get them off of all the scented and colored fabric softeners and stuff, sure. She's already done that, I think. But she's here for a homeopathic visit, and she wants to get better, and she wants a remedy. So what do you give her? Anyone? Let's start with the students. What's your gut feeling? Because this, I thought, was kind of a difficult case. So one vote for one vote for Orem. Who else wants Orem? Oh, so what makes you think Orem? That's a good thought.
Well, I am not material medicine, so I am used to arguing with me about stuff. But for one, the sensitivity to the gold.
Sensitivity to gold. Interesting.
The perfectionist.
Perfectionist.
Aspect, so high quality, high standards.
Uh-huh.
And being in the freezer, had an itchy.
Ah, our arms.
Separated from rest of society, other people.
Ah.
So it's all mental, spiritual thing. And then
So mental emotionals for arm. Interesting. Anybody else? How about, who are the students here? Let's ask some students. Okay, so you're in the student clinic and you want to be the hero that helps her with her pruritus of unknown origin. What do you think? Anyone? You can't be penalized for guessing. It's okay. It's like a multiple choice test. Yeah, so we have one vote for Nat Muir. Excellent student thought. So how many people say Nat Muir?
I like that here.
Two, that's it? Just two? Anybody else?
Can we vote for more than one?
Sure. Well, let's be polytherapists, sure. Okay, so we have three. Let's see a show of hands for Nate Muir. Yeah, Nate Muir. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Whoa. Okay. Yeah, but now who voted for Nat Muir and wants to vote for something else because you want to give two remedies at the same time, just in case?
No, not at the same time, but two.
Don't tell Hannah that.
Considering two.
Okay. What's the second remedy that you have up there with Nate Muir? Sepia. She's a very,
she's okay with the sun,
very,
so.
she's
21, that's right, the border. You see, by 21, they should have some sun sensitivity.
She's a very good athlete.
Nature Muir is good.
Sepias like the sun. They don't hate the sun. They're not.
I mean, staff segre, but you said she really only had one style.
Right.
Her teeth are good. So I would think, but she's worse confrontation and
so I think
sensitive. So
I think that's a great thought. And does she like sour? Unfortunately, she's on such a restricted. This poor kid, all she can eat right now is she eats red meat, she eats white rice, I think, and water, and I think green leafy vegetables, and I think that's all she's eating right now, because that's what her naturopath has her on. And she's like, I hate my life. Not only does my itching itch so bad, but she says that I mean, I love food and I'm getting so sick of just eating meat. She's not on any bread, of course. And so it's really made her life hell. So, okay. So sepia is an excellent thought. How about sulfur, like a chili sulfur maybe? So maybe like, what's a chili sulfur? Like maybe like a tuberculinum or something? Right. How about pulsatilla? She doesn't.
No calories.
It's also didn't come up in yours, but just serenum, which is.
Serenum. Yes, chili and itchy. Yeah, so serenum, excellent thought.
From itching or suicidal from itching.
Suicidal from itching.
They're considered dirty and they actually have eruptions, much more often than no eruptions. And when they itch, it relieves them. Eruptions.
Uh-huh.
But it's as your skin itching without eruptions.
There's not so much coming out.
Right. So some people would say don't give serenum because there's no eruption. Oh, was serenum in the itching without eruption rubric?
Yeah.
So serenum was in there. So it's a great thought. I mean, if she ever gets bad again, I mean, I might use that. Good. That's a great thought.
Had she had any dental?
Yeah, I think she's had 2 or 3 cavities, but not recently. Yeah, she's pretty good dental shape. Were you thinking like Staphylococcus aureus in terms of like caries and stuff?
No, I'm just thinking if they put any fillings in her.
Oh, yeah. No, she had no metal fillings. I think she had maybe 2 or 3 composites. Everything was in good shape.
Remedy 13, is that Ignatia?
Ignatia, yes.
So
yes.
How is her mood? Is she like up and down?
She's very stable. She's very stable. She's
okay,
very stable. But Ignatia was a thought. I mean, because with the grief, I mean, but
Yeah, but everything started before.
right.
And no sign.
She did not sign. No.
Okay, so.
But I mean, Ignatia is still, I think, is still something I would consider. What's that?
If you gave her the
Ignatia, it might. That's a good thought. Or yeah.
Maybe she would start throwing things.
Yeah, right. So what? So any other thoughts before I show you what I So it seems like most people are saying natrum, but there's some other thoughts for serenum and for some other orum.
You weigh the fasting.
How are you?
Or
Yeah. Oh, trying. So anyway, so this is the remedy that I gave, Natrum muriaticum, for the silent freeze. My feeling was, you know, even though it seemed like it was kind of a sudden surprise, like at 1 year, most kids are pretty intuitive when it comes to parents and stuff like that. And I bet you she's felt something intuitively beforehand. I can't speculate on that, you know, because I don't know. I wasn't there. But anyway, so Nate Muir seemed like the best thing. So what happened is I said, take 2 pellets, but let's just take just 2 once a week. And then I didn't hear from her. And then she emailed me at day 12. And she said, well, actually, over the first 6 days, I took 3 doses. I'm like, ooh, what happened? And she said, well, after each dose, my itching really flared up. And I got acne in places that I never even thought were possible. I actually got acne in my external ear canals and everything, like worst acne I ever had before. And she said, my body felt so weak that I actually missed one of my collegiate NCAA track practices. Thankfully, she didn't miss a real competition. So then, but then she said, but now after the 3 doses, it's been 6 days since she stopped taking any Nate Muir. She said, now things have calmed down. And she said, I feel great. So then she emails me and she says, so what do I do now? Do I take another dose? So anyway, so I said, well, wait a minute, you know, let's, and the trouble is she's way out like 5 hours from where we live. So she probably won't be able to see me until maybe the Thanksgiving, Christmas break. But anyway, so I'm like, well, let's kind of go through this. So how's the itching? It was a 5 when I saw you, and a 10 it went before you stopped eating chicken, and a 0 would be like totally normal. And she said, well, now it's like a +1 out of 10. So this is the least she's itched in 3 years. It's like amazing. Doesn't have any chapped lips anymore. She said, I feel great. So how's the stomach pain? Well, she said, I was taking 6 charcoal caps every day just to kill the pain in my stomach. And now I've only taken 1 dose of a charcoal capsule in the last 12 days. So that's a good thing. I mean, as a dermatologist, I would be happy if just she stopped itching and everything else was the same. But as a holistic practitioner, I'm very thankful because, I mean, if other things are getting better, that means you're closer to the senilumum and you're really where you want to be. So, so what about the diarrhea? And she says, I haven't had any diarrhea, but it's only been 12 days, so we don't know about that. How's the headaches? You get them every day. They're, you know, all during the day, worse in the morning. She said, in 12 days, I haven't had a single headache. This is like in 3 years, she hasn't had a single headache. So that's good. So then she says, so, you know, she's a total newbie to homeopathy. She doesn't know anything about it, but she's up for it, and she's happy. So she says, so what do I do, doc? So, okay, so this is your patient. What do we do? Okay, so Ashley says wait. Good. Who says wait? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so lots of weights. Who says take another dose, but do like the three teacup spoon method, you know, that. Okay, so one person says we can give another dose, but so she doesn't aggravate, we'll dilute it, you know, stir it in a spoonful in a second, a spoonful a third. That's a good thought. Who's a real cowboy and says, let's go up to 1M or 10M. Let's go for, so if I'm a perfectionist, so I'm like, part of me saying, well, look, you know, her itching is still a 1 out of 10. I want it to be down to a 0, you know. So, I mean, so who says, let's give a 1M or a 10M? Let's go for it. No, nobody wants to. Okay. Who says, take another dose like in a week from now? No. Okay. Well, this is what I said. I said, no, not for now. I said, only take another dose if the symptoms recur. So if everything's feeling good, you know, and you're just like you are now, just hold off, but you got it. And in a week or, you know, in 10 days or 3 weeks, if it starts coming back, take 1 more dose and don't take another one every few days. Just take 1 and see what happens. Because she obviously is responding very well to it. So I said, and of course, you know, she's doing all these like track meets and stuff. So she can't really come in, you know, when I'd like her to, but at least hopefully over the holidays, hopefully we'll see her back and see how she does. So this is a case, and it's still an ongoing case. It's not a finished case, but it was pretty impressive. Yes, Tim.
I mean, not an incredible response. And this case shows the problems with treating people with skin remedies when you get the right remedy. You told her to take it once a week. And I usually tell people with skin things, look, if you get an aggravation, wait.
Right.
More
right.
She took it 3 times in 6 days, so every other day basically, and she got weak, which is not,
Right.
that's, yeah, that you don't like to see that. In your
Right.
I mean, yeah, that's a pretty, that was very deep active.
Yeah, yeah, you bet.
So if you have a reaction like that, she might be up for a while.
Yeah.
Better for a while. If there's just the doses that you took.
So Tim is saying for somebody that gets that weak with just so few remedies, doses, that was a really deep acting, you know, and so it's a very powerful response. Good point. And Dr. Shepard, you got
Well, you only had one symptom of headache. So it might have been clearer if you got a lot more modalities and sensations.
yeah, it's a good, yeah, I probably should have gotten more modalities for that.
Because nature mirror, you want to see it's worse reading, it's worse
Oh,
light, it's worse maybe 10 or 11 a.m.
Well, first in the morning, hopefully often on the left side,
is headache in the morning, is that an innate mirror thing?
waking with headache.
Waking with headache, is it, oh, okay. And then headache worse around 10 or 11 a.m., that's an innate mirror thing, like Tim said, morning.
Follows the sun.
Headache follows the sun, so this was like a day headache, so that's a good point. So that's a nature mirror headache. What were the other things you said? Headache worse with sun, so follows the day.
You gotta have the light and you gotta have the reading.
So what do you think? A 20
Without those, would be
Sounds like symptoms of
dehydration? Oh, okay. So I mean, some people would have said, yeah, but for an adult, you should have had photophobia, and for that reason, I wouldn't have given Nate mirror. So what's the cutoff? I mean, because I know little kid Nate mirrors often have no photophobia whatsoever. Is 21 like a pretty good cutoff? Or?
someone needs, yeah, but it's
Is it chronological age though, or is it like mental emotional age because she was upset with her mom?
Mm-hmm.
So was she actually in adult mode or was she in child mode?
Mm-hmm. So basically what you're saying is, so photophobia is not a must-have. You can still have a good Nate mirror case without having
you
it.
really need it, but especially in an adult, but it depends on the circumstances. Sometimes people don't give you a clear answer. They'll say,
Mhm.
oh, I love the sun. I'm great in the sun. And you go, oh, okay, so you think that's in the mirror. But then you say, well, what about sunglasses? Oh, no, I have to have sunglasses. Well, then they're sensitive. And I wonder when she runs, if she's out there doing her athlete thing, does she have the glasses on?
Yeah, the Oakleys or something, right?
Or a ball cap?
Yeah, I mean, you really have to dig down into something. Now, it seems like she's okay with it. So, by her reaction, obviously, this is a case where she's not sensitive. She's 21 and she's good with the sun. It'll have interesting to see over time what happens. Sometimes with nature mirror, if it reacts like this, I mean, she might be on it for a few years and do really well with it. I've had patients that sure show you that when you have a mineral remedy and they react that well, she might be on it for a few years. She might gradually decrease.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question about the photophobia. Is that more of like an eye response, or is it like the sun? Because sometimes I can't stand the sun in my eyes and in my face, but oh my God, I love the sun on my back.
Uh-huh. Oh, that's a good point.
So how do you correlate that?
Well, what we were always taught was, you know, ask somebody if it's 78-degree day, you know, very beautiful day, it's like noontime, the sun isn't in your face, it's above you. Oh, is it 85? Oh, okay. Well, what's a few degrees between the sun? Okay, 85. I stand corrected. And let's say, and I tell them you could have sunscreen on, so it's like you're not going to get sunburned. But how long could you be comfortably eating lunch on that park bench before you say, and I you know, like before it's too much for you? And some people are like, well, is it the sun or is it the heat? I'm like, you're in the sun is a noonday, so it's coming down on you. You know, I don't make that distinguish to the patient. I just say, you're in there, the sun's above you. You know, how long, right? How long could you comfortably be there? How many minutes? And that's how I ask.
Yeah, sometimes with my sunglasses on though, the sun in my face is just, it's obnoxious. I can't stand it. And I just want to block it from my eyes. Like if I'm walking and, you know, it's a bright sunshiny day and we're at Six Flags and I don't have a ball cap blocking my eyes, it's annoying. I like pain my shoulders holding my hand up to block my face. But I mean, if I could turn and just like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. Or even, you know, the sun coming in through the like a glass pane and just laying on the floor with just like the sun on me, I can fall asleep. It's amazing. But on my face, oh my gosh, I can punch you.
So that would be sensitive to the sun, quite sensitive.
So that would be quite sensitive.
That would be a 2 underline.
Right. Right.
maybe it-
Punch his physician. That's probably like a +4. Yeah, in my book. So just a couple words on arthritis of unknown origin. When I was giving the lecture in Nashville at the National Dermatology meeting, there's a really good speaker by the name of Matthew Zerwas, and he's an eczema specialist now, but back then he wrote a really good retrospective study on arthritis of unknown origin. And he said that about 22% or 11 out of 50 patients did have a systemic medical cause for their itching. So that's why it's important to do, workups, share these with your internal medicine colleagues. And, you want to make sure that you're not missing some kind of a cancer, because he had a leukemia patient. He had like a stomach cancer patient. They picked up HIV, a hepatitis C infection, thyroid, we talked about that, laryngeal cancer, graft versus host. So anyway, there's a bunch of things that can make you itch. Most of the time you won't find what the cause is, but at least you got to try. So fortunately, this patient had a good workup already. So in the next few minutes, I just want to go over a couple really quick little cases here. Okay, for the students, that last case we talked about was a chronic condition, right? This is an acute condition. It wasn't there until 3 days ago, and now he's got these painful things. Got these painful ulcers, kind of yellow scallop border with kind of a red perimeter. He's got some here. This poor guy, he's 41, healthy guy. He can't even eat or drink for the past 3 days. So he's hurting. So he's in your office. He's like, doc, what am I gonna do? I can't even eat or drink. It hurts so bad. And I didn't get a picture of it, but if you get a tongue depressor and look on the left buccal mucosa, he's got a bunch of little erosions on the left. He didn't even know he had them, but they're just starting on the left side. Came back with his girlfriend from a nice Mexico trip to get out of the cold weather. He felt under the weather for 1 day, but he didn't remember having a fever. And now he feels perfectly fine, except he's got these terrible sores in his mouth and he can't eat or drink. His girlfriend doesn't have it. I don't think the girlfriend's daughter has it. And so that's that. So what's your differential? What are common things that make adults' mouths really hurt? Well, herpes, right? I mean, everyone knows about herpes simplex.
This is primary.
This could be a primary one, exactly. Right. That makes feeling under the weather, so it could be a primary. Yep. Aphthous ulcers, of course, is like really high on my book. So aphthous ulcers, canker sores. So those are things I was thinking. Celiac disease. But he says, wait a minute, doctor, wait a minute. I got more to show you. Don't run out of the room. So I said, I've got these funny spots on my palms. Now, of course, if he had high fever, which he doesn't, and if he was not feeling well, if he was feeling so sick, he looked toxic and his wife had to drive him in, and these spots weren't there until 3 hours ago, and he's got like a fever of 103, and his neck is so stiff he can't even move it, you would send him to the emergency room immediately because he could die within 12 hours. What does he have if he has that? Yeah, acute meningococcemia. So yeah, he could have meningitis, and so, and often they would not be blanching; they'd be like prepared. But he's not sick. He's healthy, except he just needs help with this. And then he says, "Well, wait a minute, doc." And then he takes off one of his shoes, and he has a few of these just on one foot. Now look very closely at these photos. Aside from these little red things, you can come up here and come real close. You got to come close. Come on, everybody, get closer. You got to see it. Who sees something else? Another lesion, a primary lesion, aside from these red things.
A little bit of mottling of the skin.
Mottling, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But do you see anything else? Yeah, very good. So Randy says this thing here. So you've got, this is a whitish vesicle. It's a flat top vesicle. Now, classically in this condition, you would have vesicles on the hands and feet, but you would also have a football-shaped vesicle. So this is kind of like a football shape. Most blisters would be like round, right? There's a football-shaped vesicle. Most of them would have a nice red areola, but this is a super early one. So now what are you thinking of? Yes. So Janice nailed it. Hand, foot, and mouth disease. Coxsackie virus A16 is probably the most common that the specialists say that is causing this. Although there's a new one called Coxsackie A6, and it's kind of like the hand, foot, and mouth from hell. I haven't seen it yet. I don't think this patient has it, but all the pediatric dermatology lectures that I go to are all talking about Coxsackie A6. That's like the new really bad one from hell. That one not only is hand, foot, and mouth, but then they start getting blisters all over their arms and legs. So it's kind of like turned up like 10 notches. Thankfully, I haven't seen that one. So anyway, so we talked about the things that it could be, but Janice correctly identified hand, foot, mouth disease. Now I gotta tell you, I've seen hand, foot, and mouth disease before. Has anybody ever seen it in a 41-year-old? I mean, I've always seen it in little kids, maybe the oldest 9 or 10 or something like that. Has anybody seen it in an adult? You could get it from the kids, yeah. But I mean, I haven't. So I asked one of my friends who's a dermatology professor, and he works at the VA. And of course, the VA, all they see is adults. They don't see kids. So he says, I have seen it in adults. We don't see kids here, but I see it in adult dermatology patients. It's not real common, but he's seen it. So this is the first adult I've ever seen with hand, foot, mouth.
Dr. Vasquez had it.
Dr. Vasquez had it? Oh, no. And I saw something very interesting on, I was Googling it last night. Last summer, strangely enough, there were 3 professional baseball pitchers in the big leagues on different teams, and they all got hand, foot, and mouth disease like last summer. So it's like it kind of made the news that like these professional like baseball pitchers were all getting it. So the Mayo Clinic says, you know, there's not really much you can do for it. Incubation is like 3 to 6 days. Fever is the first sign. They transmit it through, you know, hand and mouth type of things, you know, like one kid maybe doesn't wash his hands after he poops or something, and then the other kid's touching him and they stick their hands in their mouth and they get oral ingestion of the virus. So you're supposed to keep the kids home until the fever's gone, and usually after about 10 days, 7 to 10 days, they're just fine. So most of the time you give them a little Tylenol for the pain, or like for an adult, like I guess you can give them like ibuprofen, but you still haven't really helped them. He's saying, come on, doc, it's hurting me. I can't eat, I can't drink. Give me something. So what do? Well, from conventional dermatology, what we sometimes do with aphthous ulcers patients is that since there's no specific treatment for aphthous ulcers in conventional medicine, so what we do is usually get the unscented children's Benadryl, so diphenhydramine, antihistamine. It just so happens if you gargle with it and spit it out 15 minutes before your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, it doesn't numb your taste buds, so you can still taste what you're eating and drinking, but it does have somewhat of an anesthetic effect, so it doesn't take the pain away completely, but we use some Benadryl as swish and spit. You can also use lidocaine, but people say not to do that, mainly because it numbs your taste buds, you know. And in the little kids, it might do something to the gag reflex too, so we don't want to do that. But at least, so we did that. But so I was, this is the A6, which our patient I don't think had, but that's when you get hand, foot, mouth disease, but it's even on the arms, legs, and face, and it's even like blisters on more places. So, you know, basically you might think, you know, it's kind of like, I've never repertorized hand, foot, and mouth before, but I've repertorized aphthous ulcers. So with aphthous ulcers, you know, a lot of times you think of their constitutional remedy, you know, and natrum's really common, and natrum's good for, you know, a lot of aphthous ulcers. And of course, borax is a real aphthous ulcer, you know, oral. Mercurius is really a good oral ulcer type of remedy. So these are the kind of things I'm thinking of. So I'm thinking, so how am I going to know if it's borax or not? What should we ask him in patient terms so they'll understand it? What would you ask? So how are you when you go down in an escalator and an elevator? That's a good one. Or you could say, well, how are you with downward motion? And they'll look at you like, huh? And so, but you could say, like Tim said, so what I said was, so in his language, I said, so when you came home on the plane from Mexico, when you hit some turbulence and you went, ooh, like down really suddenly, how did you handle that? And this is exactly what he said. Listen to this. He said, Doc, I'm telling you, you could put me in a race car, a NASCAR, and you could drive 225 miles an hour and I would be just fine because that's like a straightaway. But I'll never go on a roller coaster. I purposely never eat when I'm on an airplane in case we get turbulence. So I would say he's extremely sensitive to downward motion in my books, right? So
and it could be upward too. It's just change in altitude,
so,
up or down.
So even if it's the upward, would that still be good for borax?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a change in altitude.
Let's see, what the rubric I used was general motion, downward motion aggravates. Or like if the kid is like, if the baby is comfortably sleeping and then the mother puts them down gently and all of a sudden it's like, "Rah!" That's the baby way of saying that I don't like downward motion.
I've used it specifically in people with trouble flying, who said, why with trouble flying, claustrophobic. No, it's the motion.
The motion.
Up and down, the turbulence, it really freaks me out. They take it.
Yes. It's funny that you mentioned that because supposedly Borland says that the most common remedy for air sickness, nausea and vomiting with airplane sudden turbulence, like Tim was just saying, Radar 10 keynotes, in their little notes, it says keep your homeopathic borax in your airplane carry-on bag, fear downward motion, abscess ulcers. And this was interesting. Supposedly, I mean, what is borax? Borax is sodium borate. They used to use it as like a detergent enhancer when you wash your clothes. So supposedly, in Lucy Tyler's book, she was saying that, since it is sodium borate, so in nature mirror, so they have many of the same proving symptoms because they're both sodium types of remedies. I use Radar 10. Most of the people here use, let's see, what is it? The Schroedians synthesis. Yeah, most people here probably use the MAC repertory. So like Tim was saying, or somebody was saying about baby who falls asleep and then awakens suddenly when you put it down. So downward motion, that would be how like an infant would react. Fear of downward motion.
It's the number one reason people have you have a quick case.
Like the impression infant.
Oh, so not only is borax one of your number one remedies for abscess ulcers, Dr. Shepard, that are painful abscess ulcers, but also Dr. Shepard says that, what was it? And thrush, in little babies with thrush, they might have like a painful yeast infection in the mouth, but think of borax, that's a really good thought. In fact, that one. Yes, startles easy with noise and stuff like that, which is interesting because lots of natrums and magnesium patients startle, or is it kali also? Kali. And kalis and natrums they startle, but interesting that the borax people startle with noise as well.
It's interesting when medicine combines or connects the kidneys with the salts with the ears. And my son is deaf and he's allergic to borax. He's had really, really bad responses to it.
Wow.
And he craves salt. He's deaf.
Really?
He can't stand roller coasters.
Wow.
And the off balance. He's deaf. So
wow. Okay, and Dr. Katz is here, so I'm gonna get through these in a couple seconds here. This is kind of interesting. This is really weird. I've never had a like an early winter. This isn't even winter, but late fall, like in like 3 or 4 weeks, I saw 3 people which looked like they had psoriasis, a really beefy red kind of inflamed psoriasis, itchy and stuff like that, recalcitrant. And most of the people had already gotten biopsy by the time I saw them. And all 3 of them had psoriasiform spongiatic eczema on the biopsy. So spongiosis is like little microscopic vesicles. So when you see that, you don't really think psoriasis, you're thinking more eczema. But clinically, to our eyes, it looked like a psoriasis patient. I got 3 people. I wonder if it's like a virus or something. Has anybody seen what looked like psoriasis, but the biopsy shows spongiatic eczema? I had like a slew of 3 of them just in like a few weeks.
We send them to you.
And so anyway, she came in because she wanted to be treated homeopathically, and it's itching and burning her really bad. So make a long story short, her after 2 hours, her constitutional remedy was Nature Mirror, and I gotta say, with things that look like psoriasis, they, at least in my experience, they get better really slowly with remedies. I mean, in fact, I kind of hate treating psoriasis because it's so much easier treating eczema with homeopathic remedies in terms of quickness. But anyway, for me, getting somebody 65% better with like 4 weeks of Natrum, I mean, that's like pretty amazing. And the amazing thing also is now she can sleep at night because she's not getting as much burning. She doesn't really have tinnitus, but she complained that since she's in the last couple of years that she's had problems with other things, she had like crackling in the ear. It's not gone, but it's about 30% better. Yes, Francine.
Something like that. I look at that and I think it's cellulitis.
Oh, good point. I actually, I just saw a poster in the naturopathic school here on cellulitis, and as you're leaving, you should look at that poster. It's very good. Right here. But anyway, cellulitis. Okay, that's like really important. Never forget this. This is like so important. I see like 19 out of 20 times when somebody sends us somebody with cellulitis, it really is not cellulitis, which is an acute bacterial infection. It's most likely venous stasis dermatitis, which is a form of eczema. But I mean, it takes too long to do biopsies. Wouldn't it be nice if you had some kind of a clinical pearl where right at the bedside or at the clinic table side that you could tell just like that whether it's cellulitis, which is infection, which needs antibiotics or remedies, versus it makes a big difference. If it's stasis dermatitis, you're not giving antibiotics. You're going to give them a remedy, or if you're conventional, you'll give them topical steroids and elevation, compression, stuff like that. So you got to know this. This is like so important. Most people don't know this. So what do? So you go right up to her. Everybody knows how to percuss. You can percuss people's lungs. You can percuss livers, right? Well, you percuss your skin. And you go tap, tap, tap. It's like literally like this. I mean, it's like fairly hard. And you don't ask, does that hurt? Because everybody's gonna say, yeah, it doesn't feel good. I don't like you tapping on them. Yeah, it hurts. No, you have to look at them. So you're tapping on their leg, tap, tap, tap. And if they have a chandelier sign, that's cellulitis. A chandelier sign, what's that? Whoa! They jump and they touch the chandelier. They scream. Because the other thing is, if it's a real early case of cellulitis, they won't have a fever yet, but after maybe a half a day or a day of cellulitis, they should be having a fever. But so if you tap, which she was not tender percussion, if she was, well, then I would have known, hey, it's infected. This is like important. I mean, you could die from cellulitis. But anyway, she didn't have cellulitis. So isn't that cool? So I'm still treating her. I'm going to see her back in another month.
99%, 98% of doctors will put a line on lots of cellulitis.
Yes. So Tim's point is, why do they overtreat and put everybody on antibiotics? Well, because they were never taught what I just told you. It's a very clinical, very easy pearl. You tap them, and if it hurts like heck, then it's cellulitis. And if it doesn't hurt, well, then it's probably eczema or psoriasis or something else. But that's like so important clinically because, what are the ER docs? They, everybody that isn't a dermatologist and might not know that. But now if you know that, then you won't give them antibiotics. And that's a great pearl.
Just as a thought, a lot of times we're looking more now using remedy topical.
Mm-hmm. Like topical remedies.
Some water wrapping that area in gauze.
Sure.
Twice a day.
Sure.
That, I don't know, because you can't, when you're doing what you're doing, you're getting results.
Yeah. Sure, why not? I think it's a great idea. I've never tried it. I have no experience with that, but I think it's a great idea. In fact, I mean, some of these cases were like so acute and stuff and so red and beefy. I thought I was going to have to give them belladonna, but I actually gave her constitutional remedy.
I think it's skin eruption. You want to be careful you're not suppressing. Now, maybe for other things, for cancer, nets and stuff, you can find good results with some vitamin, things like that, bone nets and stuff. But even Hahnemann says for skin eruptions, you can put the remedy topical elsewhere, but not on your
The two different paragraphs, 194 and 95, and the one that says you should use topical is 284 and 285.
So moving along, this is a.
Before you go on to the next one, I just want to acknowledge some of the stuff we've done.
Oh yes.
So it's, but with, Amisha pointed out that excess salivation increases ulcers.
Yes. Excess salivation from mercurius. Yeah, that one patient with the hand, foot, mouth did not have excess salivation. He did have, I did repertorize white-coated tongue because he said, doc, 3 days ago, I never had a white-coated tongue, so that was like an important thing. But yeah, he didn't have the notching of the teeth where they notch in, the flabby tongue of mercurius. He did not have that. He didn't have like the salivation. But excellent point. Yeah. Good materia medica.
And just some key points to notice. Christine was saying that she's used skin itching, no eruptions for a number of things. So diagnosis.
Oh, great.
And then she also wanted to point out that Nat Muir was very profoundly deep as a birth remedy for her when she was like 33, so what ages.
Oh, Dr. Shamro,
Like
really?
except for, she said she had no photophobia, aversion to sun, or wear sunglasses. So.
Oh, she did not.
Because,
Oh.
those necessarily doesn't mean why or whatever, because Nat Muir was very profound for her.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know, Elizabeth, you can let us know, can you send me another message, but when you were asking for tingling intermittence, I don't know.
It was totally constant, driving her nuts. It's, yeah. Okay, so moving on. 4-year-old, really healthy guy. He has 16 of these things all over his body, kind of like waxy, whitish gray, pearly papules. Present for a few months, started on his chest. Now they're moving to his face and trunk. He was playing with his cousin, who the mother thinks had similar bumps. They're not sure. Every time I've seen him, he's been very consistent. He's a really nice guy, very extroverted, very happy. He's always silly. He's always talking. He's just a fun guy, patient to examine. Very warm-blooded. He uncovers at night. He's sloppy. He's thirsty for cold water. He loves sweets, pizza, and chicken. He hates eggs and he hates milk. It's kind of unusual for like most kids around my neck of the woods usually like milk. He is better with constellation. He has a history of eczema, but he's pretty much outgrown it now. Lately, it's been clear. Oh, and the mother has to give him Claritin every time they take him to the grandmother's house, who has a dog that he likes to play with, because he always like gets allergic rhinitis. And he occasionally wets his bed. He's 4, but he still wets every now and then. So quickly, what's your diagnosis and what remedy do we give him? Pulsatilla, how many yes hands for pulsatilla? 1, 2, 3, 3 and a 4. Okay, who else other than pulsatilla? Sulfur. Okay, Tim says sulfur. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's a good point. Yeah, so he didn't like the eggs. Okay, anything else? Oh yeah, what's the diagnosis? Students first. Contagious waxy bumps in little kids. Molluscum contagiosum. Hey, you're 2 for 2. You're doing good, Jess. Excellent. She's rocking. So, yeah, but what else? I mean, does anybody, who thinks it's molluscum? Who thinks it's something else? Okay, so you're right. So I gave him sulfur, and but pulsatilla I thought was a good thought too. And then, so what happened was they canceled their appointment in 4 weeks because he was doing so well. Everything was almost all gone. But I would have wanted to see him back and kind of like over-treated them a little bit. But anyway, so that was like August. And then in October, they said, the nurse says that he has to have a note that he's not contagious because they won't let him back in school. And I was like, let me see him. I got to see this kid. I can't tell him if he's contagious or not. So they bring him in, and he has like a few bumps. I think he had like 16 this time. He had, I think, maybe more last time. Anyway, the father said what happened was when I gave him sulfur, I gave him 30C, just 1 dose per day. He was doing so well in a few weeks that he canceled the appointment. But then after a few months, I don't know if he got new spots, if the old spots came back. And then, so he was still sulfur. So I gave him sulfur, but this time I upped it to twice a day. And then 3 weeks later, he was like totally clear. And his whole body was totally clear, except for a little bit of post-inflammatory pigmentation, which eventually is going to go away. Oh, so how do you know if you really nailed the constitutional remedy or not? Well, so, you know, I'm like, well, I'm asking the mother, so is anything else better? She's like, no, not really. I said, well, has she been to the grandmother's lately? And he's like, of course, he goes there all the time. Have you had to give him like the Claritin? And she said, no, I haven't really given him Claritin since he started the remedy. So I'm like, oh, okay. So he doesn't need that. So that means his allergic rhinitis is doing better. So that means, yes, it could be the pseudomonum. So I said, so what about the bedwetting? And she said, oh, yeah, he doesn't bedwet anymore. So I was like, cool. So basically, he's 3 for 3. So, I mean, I think it was a good prescription. Okay, last one real quick. So what do you notice about this plantar wart? What's unusual about this plantar wart versus all the other hundreds that you've seen? You can get really close. Kind of looks like a 3-leaf clover, doesn't it? It's like there, and it's like there, and there. But the real wart are these little thrombosed capillary loops in the center. So is that important? Is that child abuse? Is that like, what's causing that? I mean, it looks weird, doesn't it? What do you guys think? I mean, normally you should just see like this. Okay, so you ask, you say, well, okay, it's on your right foot, no other plantar warts. What have you treated it with? Well, I've tried salicylic acid topical over-the-counter pads, and they don't seem to be working.
Could that cause
Yes, yes,
post-treatment work?
yes, yeah, we see it all the time. But I mean, if you're not a dermatologist, you might not see that. So, yeah, see, if you put the pad on just right, so for the people in the webinar, I'll use this. If you put the pad on just right, it'll turn this white and make it kind of blister and fall off. But, you know, I mean, sometimes kids aren't and adults aren't really accurate. So sometimes you can, or maybe you put it on right and then the kid's running around, so it kind of turns like in their sock. So sometimes it can actually irritate the normal skin, so that's what's going on. So that's nothing. That's just like a little incidental finding. Okay, so she comes in with acne, but mainly for the plantar wart. She hates a warm room. She absolutely can't stand a warm room. Like a room like this, she would probably have to walk out of. She gets nauseous in hot weather. I mean, she hates, you know, nauseous with hot weather. She's very bossy with her younger siblings, but her teachers think she's the best thing since sliced bread. I've never heard of anybody describe their kid like this. I said, well, what do you think of your daughter's personality? You know, oh, she's egocentric. So she's maybe egotistical, I don't know. And she's very extroverted. And the child put down on the questionnaire, I said, you know, like, what's unusual about you that's different than anybody else in your class? She said, I have a super high level of self-confidence. I'm like, well, what do you mean? I mean, like, you know, no, I mean, I'm good at a lot of things, and I'm really confident. And so I get the mother out of the room and I ask her out of earshot. I said, so what do you mean? She said, yeah, it's really true. She's like really good at everything, and she's like really confident in it. Because she's in pom-pom, she's in cheerleading, she gets like straight A's or whatever. You know, she's like a successful kid. Anyway, so and I said, well, you know, we could treat it homeopathically. That's what I'd like to do. But you know, we could do surgery and we can cure it and we can do some other things. But if we do surgery, you're gonna have some scab. And she said, no, I don't want to hear it. Huh? I was like, oh, she must be like really squeamish, you know, like horrible things, you know. So I'm even thinking like maybe calcar because they hate horrible things. So as soon as I said, well, there's gonna be a little bit of blood, but she's like, oh no, don't tell me. She was like really cringing. I'm like, oh, so she's squeamish and fearful of painful work treatment. So you know the diagnosis, but what remedy should we give her? Net mirror? Who says net mirror? Nobody. Sulfur? 1, 2, 3, 4 sulfurs. Okay, what else? Lycopodium. 1. Who says lycopodium? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Anything else? Zinco? Okay. So that's what I gave her. I gave her lycopodium. And now, usually I tell people when you're treating warts with the simillimum, like they're constitutional usually, it won't be gone in 3 to 4 weeks usually, but it might take maybe a couple of months, 2-3 months to go away. But at least you should see something happening in the wart or the molluscum. If nothing is happening, not anything at all within 3 to 4 weeks, usually it's the wrong remedy in my experience. But with this one, this is like so unusual. It was like a really slow and steady healing. I was like, I saw her back, it was like, it was only just a tiny bit better. But it was like maybe a millimeter or 2 better. And a couple of, you know, like another visit after that, 4 weeks after, a little smaller. And then 4 weeks ago, I saw her, it was almost gone, but I couldn't take a picture because it was still there. And like, so it's like every few weeks, like 1 millimeter would get smaller. So it took 21 weeks, but it completely cleared her up.
How long had it been there already?
Do we know? I forgot to write that down. I think like maybe about 4, 5, 6 months. So it wasn't like forever. But the reason why I think it was helpful to her in terms of being a simillimum is that she had some pretty bad menstrual cramps, premenstrual cramps, I should say, and they're completely gone. She had premenstrual back pain. She still had it, but it was like way better. So that argues that hopefully the lycopodium was a good remedy for her.
So for her self-centeredness, she would use haughty?
She wasn't haughty. in her mind, she was just telling the truth. It wasn't like, look what I can do. She was just like, I'm just good at a lot of things, you know, and I'm confident because, you know, that's what happens when you get a lot of things. She wasn't like haughty. It wasn't like Platina where she's looking down at the world. She was just, you know, whereas actually I always read Lycopodium was, they're actually low self-confidence, but they strut around like a big tough guy or a really, you know, somebody that's really good at something, but they're actually masking their low self-confidence. But in this case, I guess it was just true. She was just a talented person. Okay, so thank you very much. We're gonna just take about 3 or 4 minutes. Dr. Katz is gonna get, oh, any questions?
I'm sorry, I was just, was that on the right?
Yes,
Okay.
so Lycopodium, for the students, is Lycopodium primarily a right-sided remedy or a left-sided remedy? Right-sided. What's the number 1 or 2 left-sided remedies for the students? Lachesis, left, and Lycopodium, well, you just remember it's not left. Cool, well, thanks. And then in a couple minutes, we're going to have Dr. Elisa Katz. She's a veterinarian with impeccable training. She has done the Pitcairn School of Homeopathy. And the coolest thing is she's in Downers Grove, so I could send patients to her. So, okay.
Hey, Christina.
And
Hey, I'm looking for Elisa Katz. I don't see her online.
So most definitely the email that I'm going to send you has step-by-step instructions for you to do that. It's super easy.
Excellent.
And being that it's already registered, it's going to be easier for you to go.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Bob, was she online? I don't see her. Yeah, no, Elisa Katz. Oh, duh, I'm like looking online. It's not here. I live in virtual reality. Scary.
Easier because I did save my presentation.
Oh yeah, it's easier to, because we're already hooked up to the webinar.
Now there's video on here as well. Am I going to be able to play
that
the
should be
video?
fine.
Okay.
That should be fine.
All right.
Here, I'll set it up for you. Hopefully this will work. I'm so sorry. I was like looking for you online. I said, where? I'm so used to the vets being online. That it's good to have you in person.
Yeah.
Okay. These are the people that are online.
Okay, great. Yeah, I recognize
Christina,
some of those names.
Christina.
Oh, that's
Kylie.
not one of my classmates, but somebody in the class after me for Pitcairn. I recognize the name from the forum.
And we can do this as long as there's no feedback. We could even unmute people if just leave it unmuted if there's no feedback. But sometimes it gets a little noisy, especially Jeff had his dog barking. So but I'll leave that up to you. We can try it.
Oh, I'm just gonna grab my.
What is it? Where?
It is 3 veterinary homeopathic cases.
T.
Yeah. 3 veterinary homeopathic cases.
Excellent.
Two of them are kind of long and the third one's really quick, so.
Where's your office in town, Scrub? Where?
Right at 75th and Fairview.
Is that which west side of 355? That's east of 355?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm basically across the street is Darien, so I'm south down this road.
Cool. I played golf down there on 75th. They have a golf course there right on 75th, I think, that I like to go to sometimes. Real close to the freeway, just east of 355. Which view do you want? You can have two views. You can have, this is like the presenter's view, so you can see the next slide coming up.
I'm good. I've got my water. Thank you very much.
This is the presenter's view, or we can do just
I usually do full screen.
It's full screen up here. So it's just, do you want to see the next slide or not?
I
If
don't,
not,
I
I'll
don't
go to-
have to. I've got like my notes. Well,
Up to you.
I've got my notes.
I'll show you
here.
the two options.
Yeah.
So that's one view. The screen looks the same to everyone. Everyone sees the same. Or
Yeah.
this.
I'm used to this view, so this view's okay
Yeah.
with me. And then
And
I've
then
got my notes from my.
This is forward. This is back.
Okay, so I'm just using
Forward
the.
and back. Yeah.
Okay. Now, what happens when I want to play the videos? Can I
Let's
roll
try
over it?
Let's where's the video?
There, it's probably the third or fourth slide here. This is a video. So just
Let's see
go
what
there and
happens.
click. Okay.
And let's click.
Okay. Yeah, it works. Oh, why did it?
Oh, what we can do is
I don't know if I can
here, see if we can
change
fix
it
that.
if it's sideways.
Fix this.
What if we right click? No.
Oops. Get out. Huh, it's okay here. Maybe if we
Yeah.
make it a little smaller. Make it a little smaller. It might be just pixels because when you
Okay.
I don't know. Let's see.
I'm so used to using a PC, not a Mac.
Here, let's see now what happens. I made a little bit smaller. Now see in this view, it's okay. Let's see. Let's switch to the other view and see what it does. Yeah, now we're okay. Now we're okay.
But then you got to roll over and.
Yeah, you got to roll over. So it's just this, and then, but if you want to click, you have to actually press on it. You have to. Here, why don't you practice?
Yeah, let's just see.
There we go.
But see, then it
Turns it.
I don't know why it. We didn't. I don't recall turning the camera, but maybe we did.
No, it has something to do with because of the presentation and online.
I could change it on my computer really quick, reload it, and.
No, but it's funny when we stop it, it goes back to being normal. I don't know, that's quirky. That's just a quirk here.
Because it was playing normally on my so. Oh.
I know myself when I go there, I spend ridiculous amounts of money.
Well, we might just have to watch it sideways, unless.
Any computer people here?
We can't change
Any
it.
computer people?
Mac people.
Well,
I'm
it's
not
more a
Mac person.
PowerPoint thing.
This video is supposed to be up
So
in.
this is the problem. So it's like this, but when we go to presentation mode,
if you click that little turning thing,
Okay.
and then you need it.
Okay.
You need it like this.
Yeah.
Let's
Yes.
try that.
Okay.
Try the presentation.
Yes.
on.
Okay.
And
All
let's
right.
go to presentation mode. Let's see. But we have to play it. See, what'll happen is I'll flip it.
There you go.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe we can make it a little bigger. I don't know how to.
A bigger? Yeah, we can make it bigger.
Yeah. So go back, I guess, to the other screen. Escape, maybe. Okay.
And how big do you want it to be?
Like 75% of the. Yeah, that's good. That's probably good. And then maybe center it just a little. Yeah. Perfect. That's good. Okay. Now,
And
I
let's
do
try
have,
it one more time to
I
make
do
sure.
have another video later on, like a couple slides later.
Let me look at that too.
Yeah, I don't know if it's gonna do the same thing. Sorry, the video is different stuff.
Well, it's, the more we use the technology, there's little perks of not being programmed. Okay, so that works.
Yeah,
Let's
so
go
it's
ahead.
nope. Keep going. That's probably the other video. Yeah. Yeah, that did the same thing.
All right. So what we're going to do
We're
is the
gonna
same
go.
solution. Same solution.
Yeah. And then I guess do like, yeah, there you go. Okay, and we'll have to make that one easier.
Let's move it away. Like here, so it's out of the way. Let's see how that goes.
That'll work.
Everyone's ready.
Yep.
You're familiar.
So, roll over. Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. So that helped. Those are the only two videos I have. All right, so how I go, oh, nope. Okay. I guess. Gotta get rid of that little.
And then
thing.
this, you just click the little
Okay.
orange arrow. And then
Oh, wait.
click on the top and just move it over wherever you want it.
Okay.
We have to keep it because we have.
Oh, okay, okay.
See something.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
You good?
I think I'm ready.
Good, good, good.
Okay.
Come back in the room and we'll start.
All righty. Sounds good.
You mainly treat
Dogs and cats. I'm not opposed to treating other animals. In fact, I found one of Bob's cases very interesting because livestock get a condition called foot and mouth disease, which I think is also a Coxsackie virus. I don't treat livestock, but you know, I remember obviously what I learned.
I always wonder when these diseases appear out of nowhere. It's like, where's it coming from?
Yeah.
I mean, there's some because of what we're eating and what's happening with the livestock. Is it? I know, for example, I studied. I looked at some articles on. It used to be everyone would get young kids, like on the family doctor, treat all ages. So young kids would get rotavirus, they have vomiting and diarrhea, they get real sick, some of them have to go to the hospital. But since the rotavirus vaccine, I haven't seen a case of rotavirus in many years. Now everyone's got enterovirus. Norovirus.
Okay. Yeah.
And I looked up a few articles. There's something going on. It's because of the vaccine. It's like whack-a-mole. Because we push down rotavirus, norovirus has come up to take its place.
Yeah.
And of course, the vaccine manufacturers
We've
go,
done nothing
make more money.
Nothing for susceptibility.
Exactly.
We just, yeah.
And so they're like, well, we'll make they're probably developing a vaccine as we speak for norovirus. So, they add on another vaccine, make another $1 billion.
Absolutely.
But it's whack-a-mole. It's like never. So I wonder with some of these diseases that are emerging, I wonder if the vaccine burden that children and people and animals have nowadays, is that changing the vaccine, the disease burden, the viral burden that we're seeing, those diseases that are appearing? I think about
I you know, we're taught in veterinary school to give a lot of vaccines.
As we are taught in,
Yeah.
as a family practice resident, we were taught, just, here's a vaccine schedule, follow it. There are no side effects. It's like, is that realistic? It's not. And then you in practice, that wasn't true at all.
Yeah. So.
Bob's back. We can start.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, or morning, everybody. My name is Dr. Elisa Katz. I am a veterinarian. I have a small holistic practice in Downers Grove. I'll give you just a teensy bit of history about me. So I graduated from The Ohio State University in 2000. For my first 7 years of my career, I practiced pretty much exclusively conventional medicine before I just became very disheartened with the limitations. Okay, where am I supposed to be speaking? Towards the computer? Yeah, okay. So I'll give you just a little bit of history. It's okay.
I'm sorry.
Hello, hello, check, check. 1, 2, 3. No, we're getting a signal that it's on here.
I could, like, if people online, say if they can hear, I can hear anything.
Elizabeth, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, no problems. Why don't you-
Okay, so, continue? Or can
Is that good? Can you hear
me?
us, Elizabeth?
Yes, I can hear. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Okay.
Okay, shall I wait till she gets everything figured out?
No, I
or-
I mean, if they can,
Okay.
hear you, then it's something on my end.
Okay. So sorry, so for the first 7 years of my career, I practiced strictly conventional medicine before I became disheartened with the limitations. I then studied acupuncture, became certified in that modality. I then studied herbal medicine, also became certified in that. I'm also a certified canine rehabilitation therapist. And then in the year of 2016, I attended and completed the Pitcairn course in veterinary homeopathy. And since then, I've been addicted. So I'm going to present 3 cases of veterinary homeopathy. The first 2 are a little bit longer. The third case is very quick. Thank you, everybody, for hanging around for my presentation. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh, here we go. I'm just going to use that then because the little arrows aren't working. So the first case is Misty. Misty is a 9-month-old female spayed domestic short hair cat. She's mostly indoors. She goes outside with just a little bit of supervision. Little bit of background history on Misty. So she had received vaccines in February of 2016, a rabies and a feline distemper combination, which is 3 different feline vaccines. She was adopted from the shelter in March of 2016. About 3 weeks or so before I saw her, the 4th of July was going on, fireworks were going on. She was very stressed. This might have been a little bit of causation, not sure. But 2 weeks or so before I saw her, she started coughing, sneezing, and acting as if her throat was sore. We were never able to prove this. If she were a person, I could ask, how does your throat feel? Does your throat feel sore? But her mom kind of inferred this from her behavior. She wasn't eating, and this is, again, prior to I saw her. She had an enlarged, I think it was popliteal lymph node. She'd been treated with antibiotics and fluids by the conventional veterinarian. She only had mild improvement, but the fever and the symptoms kept returning even after she was referred to the University of Illinois for hospitalization. I believe they treated her with more antibiotics. So when I saw her on July 26, 2016, she was acutely, severely pruritic at an area just dorsal to the base of her left ear, sorry, left side. You'll see that in a few moments. She had scratched so much that she created this red open wound. She also had been treated by the conventional veterinarian with dexamethasone, which is a steroid injected kind of into the area, and a long-acting antibiotic injection called Convenia. 4 days after this, she developed ataxia and incoordination. Interesting, she was not drinking water despite having a fever. At one point, it was as high as 103.3, but when I saw her, it was 102.5. So normal for dogs and cats is around 101 to maybe 101.5 if they're really excited. So 102.5, I'd consider a mild fever. Her stools had been yellowish and softer than normal. This is a video of Misty the first day that I saw her. So as you can see, she's stumbling around. She can't really focus on the toy. She needs to stop to scratch. You'll see. I have a close-up picture of one of the lesions. Yeah, she scratches until it bleeds, and she develops these big scabs there.
There we go. Okay. I think we got a nice little video of her being clumsy and intact. That's good.
Okay. So symptoms and rubrics that I used were head trembling, hot head, her head actually felt warm, but her extremities felt cool, fever, soft stool, the ataxia and incoordination. I inferred that she had blurred vision or possible diplopia just by the way she was acting. She couldn't really focus on the toy. If you were a person, of course, you can ask, are you having blurry vision? And the severe itch, I also sort of inferred that maybe she had a burning sensation, especially since the skin felt warm and she was scratching just so much. I thought maybe this cat is experiencing some kind of burning sensation. So this is a close-up of what she was doing to herself. Pretty severe kind of lesion there. These are several analyses that I did using MEC Repertory, using both New World Repertory and Kent. And as you can see, several remedies came up pretty high, including belladonna, mercurius, calcarea, looks like sulfur. So I considered these 4 remedies, and I ended up going with belladonna and used a 30C potency. Knowing what I know now, I probably would have gone with a higher potency. This is a young patient. Her symptoms were very severe. She probably has good vitality. They were not easily suppressed, but I was still relatively early in my homeopathic training here, and I went with a 30C. So I got a great update from the client the following day that she slept all the way home. Where's my notes here? And hang on just a sec. She ate that evening. Mom was able to leave the e-collar off, didn't have any scratching fits, was doing some normal grooming and resting comfortably. The client did notice a little bit of head shaking. I informed her this might be a crown reaction and not to repeat. We had sent the client home with an extra dose in the event that she needed to repeat. So on 7/31, still improving, even though the itch got a little worse, the ataxia incoordination, weakness symptoms were improving. I told Mom, just hang in there. And then I saw her again on August 5th. She'd been doing great. Her itch had decreased by at least 50%. She wasn't having any, I don't know if you guys heard when she stopped to scratch, she kind of cried a bit in the video. She wasn't having that anymore and not scratching as much. And she still has only had the 1 dose of belladonna 30C. And then I saw her again on August 16th. And here, I'll show you the video and you can kind of see for yourself then. Whoops, sorry, did the wrong thing. I got to do this. So,
Misty, August 16th. She looks almost normal.
She's still a little bit ataxic, but she's not falling over when she grabs for the toy.
Tripping on herself.
Yes, not stopping to scratch. She can actually follow the toy. Yeah. So Misty showed continued improvement. Oh, and I guess I do have another video here. This is from September 16th of 2016. So we got one more video here.
This is Misty, the former neurologic cat. Looking out the window, focusing on birds. Welcome to our skin. Hi.
So she's coordinated enough to jump off the cat tree without falling.
Come on, good girl.
Not stopping to scratch at all. So Misty is doing great as of today. She did get 1 dose of CalCarb 30C on January of 2017. She also has had a couple of kind of like anxiety issues that I've treated successfully with CalCarb. I've since gone up in potency to all the way up to 10M now. When mom moved, she specifically asked, oh, can you give her the homeopathic remedy? And so she's doing great. Any questions about Misty? I suspect she had some kind of meningitis. Was it induced by the vaccine she'd had several months prior? Maybe. I mean, I really don't know. Without CSF tap, MRI, we probably wouldn't know. Yes?
In general, just like for vaccine, do you usually like dose about the same as Asian or?
See, the way I learned in the Karen course, we learned, I guess, to be very conservative with our dosing, because if we repeat too often, you know, we were told we can cause an aggravation. I see with a lot of my human colleagues, you guys seem to repeat the remedies quite frequently. Maybe that's because you can tell the person, oh, if you feel this, if you feel that, stop. But we can't ask our veterinary patients how they're feeling, so maybe we err on the side of not causing an aggravation and giving less. That's, I guess, the best way I can answer that question. Yes?
So then when you dose, how do you do it?
Oh, so with cats, I love to dilute number 10 pellets in a little bit of water. I've gotten away from using the BB pellets unless I crush them, because animals tend to spit them out. It's the size of a sesame seed. It's really small. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they just dissolve a lot quicker. Yes.
Illinois, what's the what vaccines are absolute other than rabies?
Rabies is the only one that by law needs to be given. Yes. And I do have some patients, because Illinois is one of the states that will accept a letter of exemption from a veterinarian. I have some patients with cancer, patients with immune-mediated disease. This particular cat, I do not feel should ever get another vaccine, because I, could set her back again. So.
How often is it?
It depends on the veterinary clinic. Some of my colleagues still give it every year, but there is a 3-year vaccine, and so yeah. Yes.
The dogs, they can give it to the dog. I think it's different. I'm not sure if law-wise, legal-wise. Will they accept it if you do it? I know that the dog supposedly has immunity after 1 vaccination. When you do the assay, it says it has immunity.
So for those that I write the letter of exemption, I do titers. I send them to Kansas State University Veterinary Diagnostic Lab, and I've never gotten one that didn't have a protective level of titer that's had at least 1 vaccine. So.
You just assume that that's permanent then? Once that changes?
Well, I titer them every year and give them a new letter of exemption. And like I said, I haven't had any that were below the World Health Organization level for immunity. Yeah. Okay, ready for the next one? All right, cool. Oh, sorry, here's just a couple more pictures of Misty. So from August 16th, the scab on her head, and then on September 16th. Okay, next case is Valentino. Valentino is a 7.5-year-old male neutered Shepherd Sheltie mix. And I first saw him June 9th of 2018. He had had symptoms of pruritus, scabbing, and alopecia of the dorsal, muzzle, and face. He was diagnosed by the conventional veterinarian with discoid lupus. A little bit more background history on him. He was adopted at 18 weeks from rescue. The rescue gave him his first vaccine, which is usually a 4-in-1 or 5-in-1, 5 antigens in 1 vaccine. And then he was vaccinated, a puppy series 1, 2, 3. He was vaccinated yearly, I guess, from 2011 all the way up to 2018. So, and he had last received vaccines August 2nd of 2017 at which time he received a 5-in-1 and a canine influenza vaccine. So his symptoms had actually started long before I saw him, late summer 2017. I don't have anything more specific than that. When his client noticed a pink color at the nasal planum, no itching at first. She used a little bit of topical vitamin E and avocado oil. And then kind of over the next several months, it started to spread a little bit, but again, he was not itchy yet. January was when he started to have some scabbing and fur loss. He was treated with an antibiotic with no effect. February of 2018, he had the biopsy, and that was suggestive of discoid lupus. He was treated with doxycycline and topical tacrolimus. Do you guys know what tacrolimus is? It's like an immune suppressing type drug. There was a little bit of improvement, but no change in the itching. And then in June, he was treated with more topical, and finally they recommended putting him on immunosuppressive drugs, which was when the client came to me. So these are pictures of Valentino on June 29th, 2018. As you can see, he's got a lot of scabbing, not only on the bridge of his nose, but on his ears. So some of the symptoms that I used: eruptions with scabbing about the face and nose, itching of face and nose as well as ears. And his symptoms did begin, at least from my perspective, shortly after vaccination. So these are several analyses that I did. The two on the left are just New World. The two on the right are New World and Complete. I don't think I have synthesis repertory in my program, but I'm going to look into getting it. So, I think they're getting it this year. I think they're getting it. Oh no, they don't have it yet? So I'm out of luck. Anyway, so I actually chose Rhus tox in a 1M potency for this guy. I thought perhaps he was stuck in somewhat of an acute state, and he was so itchy. We also got him on a less processed diet and stopped the vaccines. My first goal was to calm the itching and then treat with a chronic remedy once the symptoms improved. So on July 5th, I got an update from the client that he looked better, was no longer scratching, but hadn't really improved any more than that. We didn't do anything, we just sat tight. So on August 14th, he got sick, had a fever, and stopped drinking while the client was out of town. He was put on some conventional treatments, including prednisone, by a conventional doctor. He did improve a bit, but of course his skin symptoms were still there. On September 12th, I rechecked him. He was improving, but still itchy. This is a picture of him from September 8th. So it's not a real good picture. This was taken by the client and sent to me, but I think you can see there's not quite as much scabbing, probably because he was maybe a little less itchy. Okay. So after consultation, actually, Dr. Pitcairn presented this case as a webinar for the veterinary homeopathic colleagues, and he advised me to use Thuya. So we gave a dose of Thuya 1M. Within 2 weeks, the itch has decreased. And then somehow we kind of lost contact with these guys. I don't know whether they got busy with holidays or what happened. I didn't see him again until February. Let me just see if I have any interim updates. No, I don't think so. But he's continuing to improve, though some lesions remain. And on August 14th of this year, he looks like a normal dog. And I do have some more pictures of him. So that's from September 26th, mostly just the nose there, but you can see the scabs are far less. And so, sorry if these pictures are a little blurry. He really likes to move around. It's hard to get a good picture of him, but the ears look much better. And this is February, looking much better, especially the dorsal nasal. He's growing fur on his dorsal nasal planum. And this is August 14th, and he basically looks like a normal dog now. Yeah. And this is just a little before and after. So June 2018 and August 14th. So yeah, he's a really sweet guy. Any questions about Valentino? Yes.
So the video was because of the
Looking through the history with the timeline, my interpretation was that, yeah, his symptoms began within a month or two of vaccination, even though they were very subtle. And then they, I'm not sure what other factors caused them to snowball, but.
And you said that could be rust tox because the crusty lesion, and like in humans, we look for better hot bathing, better hot bathing.
Yeah. I often ask people about those kinds of things or to try those kinds of things. I don't always get cooperation with that. So yeah, I try to explain, yes, this is going to help me if you put a warm compress and tell me how they react, or cold compress. But it's hard to get people to realize. Yeah. So yes.
That's a great case, and it just shows how powerful the remedies can be.
Absolutely.
Otherwise,
I think the diet had something to do with it too, but still, yeah.
I mean, if it wasn't for what you did, you would have been like on tacrolimus or prednisone for the rest of his life.
He might, or worse, azathioprine or other strong immune suppressing drugs. Yeah.
So my question is, I don't know anything about animal dermatology. When you look at Valentino in the before picture, what would be the diseases that would be in that differential? Like what looks like that?
Lupus, maybe pemphigus, scabies, but scabies isn't so much on the nose, it's more of like the ears kind of thing. Demodex, but Demodex doesn't tend to be so scabby.
So have you seen many lupus-like eruptions after vaccinations? And you think it's like a
I see a lot of dogs get itchy after vaccination. I don't know that I've seen any quite this extreme, but yeah, because and I guess I shouldn't, because I don't know specifically about how many vaccines are recommended for adults in the human world, but in the veterinary world, a lot of practitioners are still vaccinating every year. It's a big revenue source for them. And even though the American Animal Hospital Association recommends every 3 years for certain vaccines, there's a reluctance to lose that revenue. Yeah,
are animal owners kind of wising up? I
think they are.
Parents, especially mothers, figuring
Yes.
out that sometimes they're side effects of vaccines, despite what the industry says.
Absolutely. Part of the difficulty, I guess, in getting people away from the vaccines, and especially towards something like titers, is there's a big, pretty significant cost difference. But I try to keep my titer costs reasonable, but I can't charge the same for a titer that I would for vaccine, because it's just not feasible. So, but we do a lot of titers. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Cost effective than having an animal that's sick.
You are absolutely right.
Even they develop allergies to normal foods with these vaccinations. They can't eat chicken.
Yes.
Cats can't eat chicken.
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
you provide a can of bison or venison or something. And those are like huge big things.
I don't think normal meaning general population, that rules make a correlation though. Like even if it's within a relatively short period of time of their animal getting vaccinated, especially a little animal getting the same dose as a larger animal, they don't associate that.
Yeah.
They don't have the mindset that this causes that. And so, yeah, I mean, I've asked vets about getting titers instead, and I think like, I'm not
Yeah.
success with it. And the only alternative to practitioner, like I specifically asked them, do you do homeopathy? And they say, oh, yeah, we have some people that
No, yeah, there's a bit of a confusion sometimes with holistic medicine and homeopathy, but I tell all my clients that come to me with their patient with allergies, with something like this, with GI. I have one patient, well, I have probably a couple patients treating with IBD, with homeopathy, and I say the root causes the immune imbalance. So what do vaccines do? They perturb the immune system. That's what they're designed to do. Yes.
This might be a little odd. What about probiotics for animals that don't treat with vaccination? What have you found with that?
Patients treated with antibiotics, absolutely. I'm not sure that they necessarily perturb the good versus bad bacteria. That's a good point. I mean, it's not going to hurt them, I don't think. But yeah, I hadn't really thought of it that way. Okay. Yes.
I had an instance a couple of years ago. I was working with a human, and I'm doing some functional neurology and stuff. And the human did pretty well, and then said, you know what, I think my dog is responding negatively to the vaccination. And I said, can you help my dog? Because I had adjusted their cat in the chiropractor.
Okay.
And I said, I blah, 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 and the dog was doing all kinds of very curious things. So what caught my attention was, the question is, I gave the dog a remedy, and it sounded like, to me, it seemed like the dog had like a cerebral inflammation in the skull.
Very well.
I'm wondering if you see that, other than skin and GI, do you see that neurological impact of these vaccinations?
Well, I mean, I think that may have been part of contributing with Misty. I see a good amount of patients that develop seizures within a few months of having vaccine, and they don't have to be full epileptic seizures. They could be these chewing type seizures, and they respond really well to homeopathy. Yeah. Yes.
I have a corgi that I brought in to see before, and when I gave him his last rabies vaccine, he couldn't walk for a whole week. So.
Did you give him Lexus?
Well, this was years ago.
Oh, okay.
So, but yeah, that was really eye-opening to me. That was the last rabies vaccine I'll ever give him.
Yeah.
So it was definitely neurological. Happened.
From online, I just want to acknowledge that one of the listeners said that she does not recommend annual titers, and that once there is adequate antibodies and cell-mediated immunity is there, so you will need to use them if you need to prove that it's still. So.
Yes.
Do you consider anything as prevention, something from before you kind of vaccination?
Well, I do use nosodes. Some of my clients use nosodes. We have a kennel cough nosode, leptospirosis nosode, because leptospirosis is a vaccine that we see a lot of reaction to, especially little dogs. And it is a disease that is contagious to humans. So, so yeah, I mean, is that sort of what you were asking, or like prevent it before I give a vaccine, like a detox or something? I'm not sure about the question. Yeah. Yeah. My predecessor used to use the vaccine detox, and I don't know if you guys like listen for the rabies and Thuja for other vaccines, but after taking the course, you know, I learned that is not appropriate use of homeopathy. You're not treating based on symptoms. You're just giving the remedy. Yes. It depends. I like to have clients email me, usually within no more than a week. Sometimes it's a few days, depends on how severely affected the patient is. And I typically schedule a follow-up within a month, sometimes a little sooner. Okay. Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry.
I have a question. So let's say you have a certain type of animal. Let's say a Labrador.
Okay.
Because I had a vet call me when my girlfriend used this vet, and this animal had a problem. She just wanted to not be on this dog.
Mm-hmm.
They have a certain nature.
Okay, yeah.
So this dog was pulsatilla.
Okay.
And the pulsatilla did amazing things for the problems that this dog had. And I'm thinking, you know, they're all friendly and like attention. And do you consider that the type of breed and their nature when you select a remedy?
Yes, I would, especially if I saw a Labrador that did not fit that sort of personality. Because say I saw one that was very shy, wanting to hide, I might think, well, maybe calc or some other remedy where they're frightened easily. So yeah.
So you're saying, at least legally speaking, animals would have to get at least one rabies vaccine every 2 years? So,
yes, but the state of Illinois does allow for a medical exemption,
so if, let's say if an animal got the rabies vaccine every 3rd year, is that going to be the same vaccine dose as the yearly animals get? Or is it going to be like a 3 times as powerful one because it only comes every 3 years?
There was a study done in 1999 at Purdue University. It was not widely publicized because if it had, there'd be a lot less vaccination going on. They took 2 separate subsets of beagle puppies, research puppies that they raised. They had some that were completely unvaccinated. They had some that had rabies vaccine. They had some that had distemper vaccine. They separated them into the various different groups. They found, and then unfortunately with research, they sacrificed the puppies. I don't recall off the top of my head how long the study lasted, 12 weeks maybe, it might have been a little longer, but they found in the vaccinated puppies only, not the unvaccinated, antibodies against tissues like fibronectin, collagen, all kinds of connective tissue substances. This, at least I feel, and I know that homeopathic veterinarians feel, is a contributing factor to animals get a lot of cruciate ligament problems, even when they're not very athletic. So, other kinds of joint problems, so, heart problems, kidney, because all these organs have connective tissues in them. And they found antibodies against all of these connective tissues. If anyone's interested in the study, I do have a copy of it. Could you, Bob, collect some emails, and I would be happy to email this study to anybody that wants it.
Can we just email it to them?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, well then I'll do it. Sure. Yes.
Sure. Yeah.
You can give me the list of all the. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. The more the merrier. I want people to know about this study. Okay. Yes.
So when you have animals, so you probably have like a big cohort of animal patients who only get like the minimum vaccines, like maybe once every 3rd year, and just rabies and nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
In your experience from being conventional and now being like, you think that the ones that only get every 3 year minimal vaccine over time are healthier than the ones?
Oh, absolutely. I have a lot of patients that live well beyond what I would think. Larger dogs, for instance. One of my patients who unfortunately recently passed, he was a 12 or 13-year-old Old English sheepdog. Now, they're a very big dog. They don't usually live into double digits.
And the last thing is, like, you live out in the country, so there's lots of stuff like that. So, like, a lot of people where I live do, like, the revolution and all those, like, things. Is it really bad for the animals? So, if it all comes back to susceptibility. If they're on a proper diet, which at least for cats has to be strictly carnivorous. I don't want to get into a big conversation about diet, but anyway, for dogs, they can have a little bit more in the way of carbs, but they're still obligate carnivores and they need to have a meat-based, unprocessed diet. So if they're on that, they're vaccinated minimally, they should be somewhat naturally resistant. We are advocates of using essential oil-based products as a preventative. We found they're very effective as a preventive, not so effective when treating, but we have had some clients that they just don't want to use the chemicals they treat successfully. It takes a little longer, but yes, the susceptibility. I'll give you a case of my own dog. So she is raw fed. She's about an eight-year-old pitty. 2 or 3 years ago, I realized that she had a couple of fleas on her, but she never got infested. She's raw fed, she's minimally vaccinated. I was able to treat her very quickly because she was not susceptible, even though she had a couple fleas. Yes.
So, okay, this flea stuff drives me nuts, and all these things that they tell you to do and inject into your dog. No, not inject, to feed your dog.
Yes.
Thing that may cause vomiting, nausea.
And seizures, Bravecto, and I don't remember the other one. I have seen those cause seizures, and if you look at the side effects, documented side effects are seizures.
How do you have an animal concerned about ticks.
Yeah.
Fleas. Is there something that could increase susceptibility to those?
Well, yeah, I mean, proper diet, minimal vaccination, and potentially homeopathic treatment. Diatomaceous earth can help prevent flea infestation, essential oil-based products. Yeah, we try to avoid recommending chemicals. I have a couple clients that are like, oh God, ticks are such a bad problem, and they really want to use something that we really don't advocate. Yes?
So for online Christina's pointing out that, some can activate antibodies, so some anti-exposure is her opinion. And then just some stats. She has a Sheltie that's still performing at 24 years old. Cats up to 34 to 38, many into their 20s. And she also, you're talking about fleas, she wrote a Kindle book if anybody's interested. Talks about lots of alternatives. It's called Fleas Be Gone.
Yeah. Yeah, sounds great. Okay, we ready for the third quick case? All right. Okay, so Dahlia is an 8-month-old female OSS, which stands for ovary sparing spayed female. So that means I took out her uterus and all of her cervix, but left her ovaries so that she can still have most of her hormonal influence. She had the typical puppy series of vaccines. I don't have an exact history on her. I saw her December 28th of last year for her ovary sparing spay surgery. She was treated for pain using just homeopathic arnica and Bellus prentis, no need for NSAIDs. January 2nd, the client called to say she had what looked like cold sores in her mouth since she got home from surgery. About 9 days later, they sent a picture showing 2 pedunculated papillomas emanating from the gingiva of the left lower lip. And I do have a picture. So this was January 11th. I did a little analysis, and of course, some of you guys probably already have these remedies mulling around in your mind. I chose Thuya. I guess probably in part, thinking back, I mean, I didn't take this into consideration at the time, but she's a little bit of a shy dog, but friendly. So that I think fits with the Thuya personality. I didn't think Merck, nothing's bleeding, nothing's ulcerated. Lack of cysts also, there's no recent rabies vaccine. I didn't really think that nothing's painful. So I went with 10M, is a young dog. She had pretty acute onset of these symptoms, and I think it was probably associated a little bit with the stress of surgery. So sorry that this picture's not exactly like the other one, because the warts were a little further rostral, but I think you can see that they're gone, because if you look at, you see the lower premolars here, so the client, I got another update February 16th. The warts got smaller every week until they finally disappeared. Dahlia's doing well. And there's another case I treated long distance. My husband's friend out in Colorado had a young dog, developed warts in his lip. I sent him a dose of Thuya 10M. He did not think it was gonna work, but it did. I don't have pictures of that dog, but yeah, so. And that's pretty much it.
Thuya is so good for the mucosal warts, so those are mucosal warts, and it's so good for secretive patients,
Yeah.
So if you get those 2 things on it, that's really good.
Yeah. So, well, Evan, thank you everybody for hanging around, and how do I eject my drive? I've never done it with a Mac. Let's
And you can take that.
Okay. All right. Oh, and I have business cards on the back table if anybody would like. Even if you don't want for yourself, if you have some clients with pets.
So thank you again, Dr. Katz, for such a great lecture. And so that's going to conclude it for the end of this year. We're going to reconvene. It's going to be the third Saturday in March. So we're going to be going March and then April and May. And then let's see what September, October, November.
And I think it's a third Saturday each time.
Yes, third Saturday. So very good. Thank you and have a great holiday season.
We should post the Ron to post the dates on Facebook page. If she hasn't, she already asked me. So let's get out of the goodbye. We'll say goodbye. Actually, one more time. Core Life. Lunch at Core Life for anyone who's interested. Core Life.
Yeah, I haven't. This is awesome. Really good.
Okay, we'll just quit. Here, Bob, let me show you. So I was just looking to see if anyone, so it's just Leanne Amici, but she's not.
So hit.
So just go to meeting,
Go to meeting. Yeah.
and then quit.
It's easy. Good.
You're gonna go live?
Yeah, let's do